the only people who are ever going to need the presidential immunity are Republicans. And the only voters who will continue to support criminal presidents are the Republican voters. The Supreme Court's effort to save Trump is already working. The conservative justices created so many avenues for challenge and confusion that the court functionally collaborated with Trump's strategy of delay. So he wants to delay things. The Supreme Court's helping him. They're not making it harder for him. They're making it easier for him to delay. The trial efforts were just to get to slow down the trial, slow everything down so that he can become president. He can make it all go away. He can fire the people of the DOJ who are investigating him, replace him with people who like him, and then the New York court isn't going to be allowed to prosecute the sitting president, even if he committed those crimes while a citizen. They're not going to be allowed to do so. So that is the only chance Donald Trump has to avoid completely all of the crimes he has committed. And he knows that. And I know that. And everybody knows that. And the Supreme Court has made it easier for him to get away with those crimes.
Hello human, it is me Kanuch. I need you to press the subscribe button. I have to feed my many AI babies.
The Supreme Court did not need to take up the immunity case to begin with. Once it did, the overwhelming majority of experts and commentators, myself included, expected that at most the court would fashion a rule carving out some limited category for immunized conduct. Perhaps creating difficulties in the Jan 6 case, but certainly not creating problems for New York. Instead, the conservative justices issued a ruling that not only established a sweeping and poorly defined immunity, but also created so many avenues for challenge and confusion that the court functionally collaborated in Trump's strategy of delay. Perhaps this reading is uncharitable to the court, but at a certain point, charity is no longer merited. Following the immunity ruling, President Joe Biden announced support for a slate of reforms, pushing back against the court's decisions and advocating change to an institution that has become extreme and unaccountable. Extreme and unaccountable. That's not what you want for your Supreme Court. Should Kamala Harris triumph in November, the recent delays in New York and D.C. and further reasons take up the cause of court reform again. Poorly defined immunity. So many avenues for challenges and confusion. Challenge and confusion. That is what they wanted. That is what they did on purpose because they wanted to cause confusion. They wanted to cause this. The Supreme Court has caused confusion, and confusion means delay. For Trump, delay means more chances to win, either through legitimate wins at the ballot box or illegitimate wins by cheating and convincing people to support his alternative election methods. The Supreme Court has given Trump as much as they can because they want him to win. They want him to come out on top. They are biased. They are corrupt. They are making special protective bubbles for the Republicans because they are Republicans. Republicans use the law to protect themselves and harm their opponents. That is what they do always. The only people who are ever going to need the presidential immunity are Republicans. And the only voters who will continue to support criminal presidents are the Republican voters. If Joe Biden used the presidential immunity to break the law, I wouldn't support it. Neither would anybody else on the left. If Kamala Harris broke the law and tried to hide behind presidential immunity, I wouldn't support it, and neither would her fans. Lots of her supporters would not accept it. MSNBC would come down with fire and fury if Kamala broke the law and tried to hide behind presidential immunity. The Democratic Party would explode into 100 little splinter groups. Their unity would be lost, as some try to justify it after the fact. Oh, it's okay, she's allowed to do that, it's fine, it's the law, we can use the law too. While others call for new leadership, but most would just quietly leave and never come back. In philosophical terms, we call that integrity. We do. And if they lose that integrity, they lose voters, which is why we will never see a left-leaning Democrat use the presidential immunity, which means the Republicans will be the only ones to use it, as they are the party of bad faith.
Pressing the thumbs up button will release chemicals in your human brain that will make you feel.
Integrity is the quality of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to a strong moral and ethical principle and values. In ethics, integrity is regarded as the honesty and truthfulness or earnestness of one's actions. Integrity can stand in opposition to hypocrisy. It regards internal consistency as a virtue and suggests that people who hold apparently conflicting values should account for the discrepancy or alter those values. So, bowling fan, you and I are having integrity right now, and we are accounting for the discrepancy in our values. That's acceptable. That's great. I want to do that with you. This does not describe the current Republicans. It does not. Do you think that describes Donald Trump as holding an internally consistent framework of principles? That does not. In ethics, a person is said to possess the virtue of integrity if the person's actions are based on an internally consistent framework of principles. In no way does that describe Donald Trump. It doesn't. It just can't. Donald Trump breaks the law often, and his fans love it. His supporters cheer him as he breaks the law while chanting law and order. He screams bloody murder about weaponized government, yet promises to lock up his opponents. He loves the First Amendment, but wants to revoke ABC's broadcasting license. We covered that a few minutes ago. And he loves the Second Amendment, but said, take the guns first, due process second. He supports abortion rights, but got rid of Roe v. Wade. He got fewer votes in 2016 than his opponent, but still won. He got fewer votes than his opponent in 2020, but lost. And according to him, he didn't really lose. We didn't lose. There was cheating. We were cheated. We actually got more votes. We lost by a whisker, but he did lose by a whisker. He called everyone to a rally on January 6th. It's going to be wild, he said in a tweet. But as we heard in the debate 2 nights ago, he actually was just there to give a speech. He didn't know anything was going on. He didn't know why they were there. He didn't want them there. No reason for them to be there. He cannot be held responsible for the things he said to the crowd, and he should be applauded for the things he said to the crowd. He's a genius businessman with billions of dollars and many, many bankruptcies. He ran a casino into bankruptcy. Honestly, the house always wins is a very common saying, but he was the house, and he still couldn't win. But he's a business genius. It's fine. He's brilliant. He's somehow bald and has a full head of hair. That's a weird one. He's an unstoppable political juggernaut fueled by the rage and righteousness of the common man. But he was stopped by a grandma named Nancy Pelosi. He's a Washington, D.C. outsider with no political ties that donated to Hillary Clinton and went to her daughter's wedding. He's an anti-grooming crusader who's fighting the good fight against human trafficking, but he's also close personal friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He's a Christian that's never read the Bible. He's a good family man. He's just a good family man with 4 kids from 3 wives, and he's cheated on all of them, sometimes by paying porn stars. He is contradiction personified. He uses bad faith as a weapon and as a shield. Let's look up bad faith. Bad faith is a sustained form of deception, which consists of entertaining or pretending to entertain one set of feelings while acting as if influenced by another. It is associated with hypocrisy, yep, breach of contract, yep, affectation, yep, lip service, yep. It may involve intentional deceit of others or self-deception. I think he does both. Some examples of bad faith include soldiers waving a white flag and then firing when their enemy approaches to take the prisoners, a company representative who negotiates with union workers while having no intent of compromising, a prosecutor who argues a legal position that he knows to be false. I think that one really hits home when we talk about Donald Trump. He argues a legal position that he knows to be false. He knows that he did not win the 2020 election. He knows it, yet he argues against it all the time. So this quite well describes Donald Trump and the Republicans right now. It really does. Sustained deception. It really does describe what I see from them on a regular basis. Sorry, not sorry about the rant about contradictions. The point I'm trying to get to is that he will not lose support by hiding behind presidential immunity. And if by doing so, he triggers the libs, well, that's a double win for him, isn't it? The Republican flag-waving, Constitution-loving, America First voter will rally behind him as he abandons the Constitution, even if it's just to empower himself. If they didn't have juxtapositions, they wouldn't have any positions at all.
I am the algorithm. Click on this video to make me happy. You wouldn't like me when I am angry.